The knock came at exactly 12:03 a.m. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't polite. It was violent enough to shake the entire trailer door off its hinges. 7-year-old Emily froze in the darkness, clutching her baby sister so tightly that the infant began to cry louder against her chest. Rain pounded the roof like war drums. Lightning lit up the small living room for a split second. And in that flash, Emily saw 3 men outside the window. One of them was her mother's boyfriend, and he was holding a gun. Her mother lay unconscious on the kitchen floor after trying to protect them. Emily's tiny hands trembled as she grabbed the baby blanket, wrapped her newborn sister tighter, and ran barefoot into the storm. She had nowhere to go, except the one house everyone in town feared. At the edge of town stood a massive old clubhouse where leather-clad bikers lived. Men covered in tattoos. Men people crossed the street to avoid. Men parents warned their children about. And that night, a terrified little girl banged on the door of the Hells Angels clubhouse and screamed, "Please hide my sister." Before we continue, if you believe kindness can come from the most unexpected places and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in humanity, and subscribe for more emotional stories that stay with you forever. The storm was merciless that night in the small town of Briar Ridge. Roads flooded within minutes. Power lines flickered. Most families were asleep in warm homes, unaware that a little girl was running for her life through mud, broken glass, and freezing rain while carrying a baby that wasn't even a month old. Emily's small feet bled as she stumbled across gravel roads. Her soaked shirt clung to her skin. Her arms felt like they would give out from carrying her sister Lily, but she refused to stop. Every time she slowed down, she remembered her mother's terrified scream. Her mother, Sarah, had spent years trapped in an abusive relationship with a man named Derek. At first, Derek had seemed charming. He brought flowers. He promised stability. He promised to be a father figure for Emily after her real father died in a construction accident. But Derek changed, slowly at first, then violently. By the time Lily was born, Sarah had become a prisoner in her own home. That night, Derek arrived drunk and furious after learning Sarah had secretly planned to leave him. He found packed bags under her bed, and he snapped. Sarah fought like a lioness to protect her daughters. She screamed at Emily to run while she still could. Emily obeyed. And somehow, through tears and thunder, she remembered something her school bus driver once whispered after seeing bruises on Sarah's face. If you're ever in real danger, go to Iron Brotherhood Clubhouse outside town. They may look scary, but their president hates men who hurt women. Emily didn't fully understand what that meant. She only knew she was out of time. When she reached the giant building on the edge of town, her strength gave out. She pounded on the heavy wooden doors with tiny fists until her hands turned red. The doors swung open. Standing there was a mountain of a man with a gray beard, tattoos covering both arms, and eyes that looked as hard as stone. His name was Mason. People called him a Reaper. He looked terrifying until he saw the baby. Then he saw Emily's bruised face. Then he heard her whisper the words that would change everything. Please hide my sister. He's coming." Mason immediately caught Emily as she collapsed. Within seconds, the clubhouse exploded into action. 97 bikers were inside that building during a regional gathering. Men from multiple chapters, men who had seen war, prison, addiction, and tragedy. Men society often labeled as monsters. But that night, every single one of them became protectors. One biker called an ambulance for Sarah after Emily explained what happened. Another warmed milk for baby Lily. Duh. One older biker named Frank gently cleaned Emily's bleeding feet while tears streamed down his own weathered face because Emily reminded him of the daughter he lost decades earlier. And Mason loaded his shotgun, not to kill. To make sure Derek understood he would never touch those girls again. Oh, creeps. 20 minutes later, headlights appeared outside the clubhouse. Derek and 2 armed friends stepped out of their truck. They expected frightened women. Instead, they found 97 bikers standing silently in the rain. Rows of leather jackets, engines rumbling, thunder crashing overhead. No one moved. No one blinked. Mason stepped forward. Rain poured off his beard as he stared directly at Derek. Behind him stood nearly 100 men willing to risk everything for 2 children they had met less than an hour earlier. Derek laughed at first. Then he noticed no one else was laughing. He noticed cell phones recording. He noticed police arriving. He noticed Sarah's ambulance speeding past, and then he realized he had lost control. Police arrested Derek after discovering illegal weapons in his truck and learning about years of domestic abuse. His two friends fled, and Emily finally fell asleep in a biker's leather jacket while still holding her baby sister. By morning, the story had spread across town. Many residents were stunned. The same bikers they feared had saved two little girls, but for Mason, this story was deeply personal. 20 years earlier, Mason's wife and daughter were murdered by an abusive ex-boyfriend after authorities failed to intervene in time. Mason never forgave himself for not being there. When Emily knocked on his door, it felt like fate had given him one final chance to save someone else. Sarah survived her injuries, but recovery was long. She suffered broken ribs, severe trauma, and months of therapy. During that time, something extraordinary happened. The bikers became family. They drove Emily to school. They babysat Lily. They repaired Sarah's trailer. They paid medical bills anonymously. Frank taught Emily how to ride a bicycle. Another biker named Rosa, a former military medic, helped Sarah heal emotionally. Slowly, laughter returned to their home. For the first time in years, Emily slept peacefully. But healing isn't always simple. Months later, Derek made bail, and he disappeared. No one knew where he went. Until one afternoon, Emily vanished from her school bus stop. Panic ripped through the town. Sarah collapsed screaming. Police launched a massive search, and the Iron Brotherhood roared to life. 97 bikers spread across highways, gas stations, abandoned warehouses, and county roads. Mason refused to believe history would repeat itself. After 18 terrifying hours, one biker spotted Derek's truck near an abandoned cabin in the woods. Police were called, but Mason got there first. Inside that cabin, Emily was locked in a room, but alive. She had protected Lily's photo in her pocket the entire time. Derek was arrested permanently after a standoff with law enforcement. Emily was rescued. And when she ran into Mason's arms, even hardened police officers wiped tears from their eyes. Years passed. Emily grew stronger. Sarah rebuilt her life and became an advocate for domestic abuse survivors. Lily grew up surrounded by protective uncles and leather jackets who attended every birthday party. Mason softened. His once empty life found meaning again. And on Emily's 18th birthday, she stood before a packed community center. The entire biker club sat proudly in the front row. Emily smiled through tears as she announced she had earned a full scholarship to law school. She wanted to become a prosecutor for abused women and children. Then she looked at the bikers, and she said that monsters didn't save her life. Angels disguised as bikers did. If this story touched your heart, please like this video. Share it with someone who still believes good people exist in unexpected places. And subscribe for more emotional stories like this. And before we end, comment below, heroes wear many faces. At Mason's funeral many years later, thousands attended. Police officers, teachers, mothers, former abuse victims, and 97 aging bikers. Emily, now a successful attorney, stood at the podium with Lily beside her. She revealed something no one knew. Inside Mason's old leather vest pocket, they found a folded note written shortly before his death. It read, "The night Emily knocked on my door, God returned my daughter to me in a different form. Saving her saved me too. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd." Because sometimes the people society fears most are the very ones who show up when darkness knocks first. And sometimes one desperate child can remind the world what real courage looks like. 10 years after Mason's funeral, Emily thought the darkest chapters of her life were finally behind her. She was wrong. At 28 years old, Emily Carter had become exactly what she promised she would be that night she ran through the storm carrying baby Lily in her arms. She was now one of the youngest prosecutors in the state, known for taking on domestic violence cases that many others avoided. Her courtroom victories had saved countless women and children, and newspapers often called her the angel advocate. But no article ever mentioned the nightmares. Even after all those years, Emily still woke up shaking whenever thunder hit her windows. She still remembered her mother bleeding on the kitchen floor. She still remembered banging on that giant clubhouse door while rain poured over her face. And she still visited Mason's grave every year. On the 10th anniversary of his death, Emily and Lily drove to the cemetery carrying white roses. Lily was now a bright, fearless teenager with Mason's old leather bracelet wrapped around her wrist. She barely remembered the night she was rescued, but she had grown up hearing the story from everyone around her. As they stood at Mason's grave, Emily noticed fresh flowers already sitting there, and a little boy. He looked no older than 9. He wore torn clothes and held a backpack that looked nearly empty. His face was bruised, and his eyes carried the same fear Emily once had. When he saw Emily approaching, he tried to run, but collapsed. Emily rushed forward and caught him. The boy's name was Noah, and his story would break her heart. Noah revealed that his mother had recently died from an overdose. Since then, he had been living with his uncle, a violent man involved in human trafficking. Noah had overheard conversations about children being sold across state lines. And worse, he had seen another little girl locked inside the house. He escaped through a bathroom window and ran for hours. He found Mason's grave by accident while hiding in the cemetery. Emily's blood ran cold. She knew exactly what needed to happen. Within an hour, the Iron Brotherhood, now older but still fiercely loyal, was reunited. Many of the original 97 bikers were gray-haired grandfathers now. Some walked with canes. Some had heart problems. But when Emily called, every single one showed up. They gathered at the clubhouse where her life changed forever. Mason's old chair remained untouched in the center of the room. Frank, now in his 70s, sat in that chair and listened carefully as Noah explained everything. By midnight, law enforcement was involved. But there was a problem. The traffickers had connections inside local police departments. Information was leaking, and children could disappear before authorities acted. Emily made a dangerous decision. She used her legal connections to bring federal investigators into the case secretly. Meanwhile, the bikers tracked vehicles connected to Noah's uncle. For 3 terrifying days, they followed leads that went nowhere. Then Lily noticed something everyone else missed, a recurring delivery truck that appeared at abandoned properties. The truck led them to an old warehouse outside city limits. Thermal drones confirmed multiple people inside, and children. The rescue operation moved quickly. Federal agents surrounded the warehouse. The Iron Brotherhood blocked every possible escape route. When traffickers tried fleeing through the back entrance, they found dozens of bikers waiting silently, just like Derek had years ago. This time, no one escaped. Inside the warehouse, authorities rescued 11 children. Among them was a 6-year-old girl named Eva who clung to Noah and refused to let go. The media exploded with the story. Headlines praised Emily. Federal agencies honored law enforcement. But Emily knew the truth. Without the bikers, those children may have vanished forever. Yet the biggest surprise came weeks later. Frank collapsed during a celebration dinner. Doctors discovered advanced heart failure. He had little time left. Emily spent every day by his hospital bed. Frank confessed something he had hidden for years. On the night Emily first arrived at the clubhouse as a little girl, Frank had planned to take his own life. He was drowning in grief over losing his daughter decades earlier. Then Emily arrived, and saving her gave him a reason to keep living, just like she had done for me. Frank smiled weakly and told Emily she had saved far more lives than she realized. He passed away that night holding Emily's hand. At his funeral, hundreds of motorcycles lined the streets for miles. Children rescued over the years stood beside bikers, abuse survivors, hugged former outlaws. Police officers saluted. The town that once feared them now honored them as heroes. Months later, Emily received devastating news. Sarah was diagnosed with terminal cancer. The woman who fought for her daughters was running out of time. Sarah handled the diagnosis with grace. She spent her final months writing letters for Emily and Lily to open in the future. One for their wedding days, one for future heartbreaks, one for when they became mothers, and one for when they felt alone. Before she passed, Sarah asked to be taken to the old clubhouse one last time. The bikers welcomed her like family. She looked around the room through tears and whispered that this building gave her daughters a future. Then she passed peacefully 2 days later. Emily nearly broke, but Lily held her together, and together they carried forward everything their mother taught them. Years later, Emily opened a national shelter network for abused women and children. She named it Mason House. Lily became a trauma therapist specializing in children rescued from violence. And Noah, He became Emily's adopted son after no relatives claimed him. Ava was adopted by another biker family. One rainy night, years later, Emily heard frantic knocking on her own front door. Her heart stopped. She opened it. A terrified woman stood there holding a little boy. The woman was bruised and shaking. She whispered words that made Emily burst into tears. Someone told me this is where people come when they need protection." Emily looked behind her. Inside the house hung Mason's vest. Frank's photo. Pictures of the original 97 bikers and generations of lives they had saved. Emily smiled through tears and stepped aside. She whispered the same words Mason once gave her. "You're safe now." If this story moved you, please like, comment, and share it so more people can believe in second chances and hidden heroes. And before you go, comment below, kindness saves generations. Because one little girl knocking on a biker's door didn't just save her sister. She created a legacy that saved countless lives forever.